Welcome back. Degraded Daughters is back to have another little chit chat, catch up. And today I really wanted to talk about a really big topic, love.
Love.
Because we love love, usually. This is such a really powerful and big topic, and that's kind of why I wanted to talk about it. Me and Vanessa have talked off and on about different parallels that our lives have had, and how we have love in our lives in different ways. And so we're going to chat about that and all these different ways that we have and give love.
I love it.
Me too. I love it.
It's been coming up a lot lately when we were talking with people and ourselves, amongst ex-Scientologists. So I thought the coolest way to start would be sharing the concept that changed what I thought about love. And we can also, like, at some point, I should read us the definition from the Tech Dictionary. Yeah, I'll get that ready.
Oh, yeah, because we have talked about that before, and it's so fun. It's, yeah, interesting. It's
so
interesting.
Here's an excellent definition. And it has to do with a concept that was developed by Stanley Standel in 1954, which is the year that my parent was born. So this has been around a long time. And it was later expanded and popularized by Carl Rogers, who we know is a awesome father of psychology and a father of humanistic psychology, which is awesome because it's like a client-centered, person-centered approach, just like how we discussed trauma-informed therapy or trauma-informed approach. This is kind of goes along with that. So the basic idea in regards to love is that it has to do with unconditional positive regard. It's the basic acceptance and support of a person, regardless of what the person says or does, especially in the context of client-centered therapy. He says, for me, it expresses the primary theme of my whole professional life, as that theme has been clarified through experience, interaction with others, and research. This theme has been utilized and found effective in many different areas until the broad label, a person-centered approach, seemed the most descriptive. So the general idea of this is that the individual has within him or herself the vast resources for self-understanding, for altering their self-concept, their attitudes, and their self-directed behavior. And that these resources can only be tapped into in a certain climate that we're providing, right? And it facilitates these attitudes. So for us, unconditional positive regard was not always offered. It was conditional, right? I tried to describe this concept to my dad when I first learned it, and he straight looked at me and said, huh? I don't get it. And that's because Scientology has to do with exchange. Scientology is not all about unconditional. There's literally written conditions that you need to do to be accepted, and right?
Yep. You got to earn it, right? You've got to work for it and continue to work for it.
Yeah, and unless people are offered that at a young age, that acceptance that no matter what they're going to do or say, they're going to be loved by somebody. They're going to be secure. They're going to be safe. It's really hard to not have that. And we know all about it. And it's kind of weird because as you know, people who have lost relationships with their parents, it seems like genetically like wrong, like they're like programmed to love us. So I don't think that they don't love us. I really don't. It's just that the structure is there to not be able to provide unconditional positive regard. They're actually not allowed to, based on us speaking right now.
Very true. I couldn't actually agree more. And honestly, I had a really good example within my family, probably 4 or 5 years ago. An incident happened with Scientology family members, not with us. And it was a relationship issue. And the phone calls that I got in regards to this issue, which it really was an issue, were very interesting. And they were a Scientologist saying, well, since XYD, this person did this, then we don't, like, they shouldn't really be a part of us anymore, like our group, our family. And I remember getting these phone calls and just being like, oh, so you're calling me, because we don't really talk that much, to get me to take your side on something. You want me to shame somebody for their actions. And I remember very, very clearly, me and my husband talked about the incident that happened. And normally, who I am as a sibling and family member is I'm very overprotective. So normally, I would automatically be very hovering and overprotective of my family member who was, hurt. Feelings were hurt.
Yeah.
Something happened in the relationship. And I was still really hurt, but we were the only people that honestly didn't treat that one person like complete and utter crap. My husband was so upset. He said, no, this family member of yours doesn't get to do this because their religion says that they can fix anything. And he was so pissed off with the amount of audacity that came out of this family member's mouth and how quickly they were the closest, like very, very close. And that was the first person that was trying to turn and get everybody else to then turn and be mean to the one person. And I will say the actions that were done, I'm not okay with, but I was an adult and I had a one-to-one, like face-to-face conversation and told that person, like, hey, it's not cool. It's not appropriate. And I don't appreciate that, right? Because as a family member, I'm hurt and I'm upset too. It didn't directly happen to me, but I'm still affected. So it is very interesting in the Scientology world, just how quickly you can be like, love somebody, caring, over with them at their house, them at your house, whatever, family members. And then, the slightest little inconvenience happens and they're out of the group. And it's just really, really wild. It's even more wild that those people don't really talk to us anymore. And we were the only people in their corner when that happened. I mean, just very interesting. And it goes to show how love is so different to different people. So different.
Yeah, you provided that unconditional love, even though you didn't agree with the actions, right?
Absolutely.
And unfortunately, they didn't. And there was a if-then statement.
Mm-hmm.
If you act this way, then we'll love you.
Right.
If you don't talk out about Scientology, then I can still be your mom.
Right.
And that's really, really sad. And that's what the conditions that we are just used to. Yeah. So like the fact that you displayed to him unconditional positive regard, even though you were faced with not the same thing. And I think that that's what makes us strong, resilient. I think that's why we decide to take sometimes harder foster cases.
For sure. We're like, we can do it. We love so much. Yeah, for sure. Because they'll be safe with us.
And we're not afraid. Like, I think that, I always secretly know that the dogs who have been really badly abused are secretly like going to be obsessed with love, like love. And I'm talking about like I've fostered personally over 100 dogs at this point, probably like 150 if you include all the litters and stuff. And a lot of them have gone through extreme PTSD. And I know you have too. So we've talked about this topic a lot and like, why are we so into like providing unconditional love, almost to the point of like where we shouldn't sometimes, like
Because it can wear us out.
Yeah, maybe we should be like having more love for ourselves because we're not taking care of ourselves. We're just taking in all of the rescue dogs. So that's like kind of a weird philosophical point that I've definitely discussed with my therapist many times. And we're always working on like our self-care and our self-love and our boundaries and saying no, even if we really, really want to say yes, because we can't like save everybody and the world is filled with sadness.
And it's not all of our responsibility. That's something that we also have to learn, which is hard.
Yeah, it is hard. It's so hard. So like, this is why it's hard. So there was this dog I was completely unprepared to take like 4 months ago. Probably should have said no, but like nobody else was saying yes. And the people at the animal shelter in Tulare were like really advocating for this little dog. And they were trying to get him to our dog rescue. And so most shelters would have put this dog down right away. He was super aggressive when I met him. He was like, not just aggressive, like lunging, attacking, bite you. He is 4 pounds though. He was 3.5 when we met. So I think that saved his life for sure. Just his size, because his attitude would not have worked with a larger dog. He would have been youthed right away. And he also would have been youthed if he was in LA County, because they're just really not into biters. Like he would have been pretty much not adoptable. So not to say that a biter has never been adopted, because I do take them out of the shelter, but it's sometimes marked as rescue only. So it's hard to if you don't have a personal space for them in your home, to like talk someone into taking a biter and then like get them out before anything happens or whatever. Oh, hi, kitty. Speaking of animals, they heard their cue.
I guess he did.
But anyway, Alicia's been present. I took this dog in at the shelter. They called him Jalapeno. Should have told me everything I needed.
He's spicy.
Rescue women have a special way of coding words. They said he was grumpy. Well, he was a little more than grumpy. But over the last 4 months, we've gotten to the point where this little baby angel is like obsessed with love, and he works through his PTSD. I see his brain triggers go where if he feels intimidated, because he came to me with a broken leg, battered, like in numerous parts. His legs were broken and healed. So it was an old injury. He had a busted eye, he had ear infections, and he has cancer. So we've had his leg removed. I've had to give him all kinds of treatment and stuff. But this little man is so strong and resilient, right? And providing to him that unconditional love. So when he tries to growl and bite me, I can read him well enough to know when to keep petting or when to pull my face away so I don't get an injury. But we've been working on this for a long time, and it's what you do as well with those kitties and the strays, right? Providing that, and I find so much joy, especially then telling the story, because like I have Elvis on our rescues at the Real Bark on like Instagram, and I can curate stories. And then Elvis's personal is Elvis Presley the Chihuahua.
He's a superstar. He's a superstar, guys.
It's a beautiful journey to watch these animals, and we can learn so much if we humble ourselves enough to compare ourselves to animals, because we are. And I remember in Scientology, it was so like, man, Freud said man is animal. You're better than that. And the truth is, if we can humble ourselves and watch these incredible creatures, like I took animal cognition, man, I learned so much about human nature from animals. So like, if we can all just relate a little bit and like see ourselves in some of these pets.
Absolutely.
Right?
Well, they're the biggest lesson. I mean, for us, I not everyone has animals, but for us, it's been such a good lesson for me. We started fostering years and years ago, maybe 8 or 9 now. Just not even really knowing what we were getting into. Just took 2 healthy kittens home and let them grow a little bit, get their shots, and then they got adopted, and it was easy. And then the next case I took wasn't as easy, and that's actually why I took it. I was waiting for them to get their shots, and so there was a little bit of a wait. So we went to the back and went to go play with some of the cats that were there with another volunteer. And there was this sweet little mama cat, and she was out, and the lady was telling us, oh, she's new, and her kittens are down there. So I went to go look, and her kittens were just kind of laying there, not really moving, which is not really normal. And one was like, I opened the cage, and one was really cold and lethargic, and I kind of freaked out, and I was telling her, I'm like, hey, I think that kitten might be like not doing good. Like, I don't want to say like it's not going to make it, but I think it's actively in the process of passing away. And I couldn't tell you why. That's just the gut feeling that I had from looking at it, watching it breathe and all that stuff. And of course, the volunteer kind of like was really sad and kind of freaked out because, no one wants that. And so she went to get somebody else to go look. And I said, get somebody else to double look. Cause maybe I don't know what I'm talking about. Right. I always like to have extra pair of eyes. And another OG like cat volunteer came and looked, and she said, sure enough, like that kitten is not doing good. And so I said, hey, if you'll let me, I'll take the mama. And she had 3 kittens at the time. I said, I'll take them home. Might not be the best chance that they have, but I don't want them to just pass away in a cage by themselves, cold and alone, not ever knowing what a home is. So I took the mommy and her 3 kittens, and sure enough, that baby passed away that night. The mom wasn't eating for a while, and she was really thin. And so I worried about her. Once the kitten passed, and she knew he passed, and I let her kind of look at the kitten, and when I took it out to clean everything, she started to eat the next day. So she was depressed and mourning her kitten. So it was really sad.
They show depression just like us. Yeah.
So many similarities. And she was such a fun case. Not that it was fun in that sense, but a week later, she had 2 kittens left. And then a week later, one of her kittens passed away suddenly too. I thought they were doing so good and they were thriving. And then we had to put breathing treatments and do all the stuff. And he didn't make it. He passed away on my son's birthday. So it was kind of sad. And I was really bummed. And then that one mommy kitty had 1 remaining kitten. And they both went and showed for adoption. And the mommy, when she was getting spayed, they showed me on her underbelly. They said, hey, we want to show you something. When she was getting spayed, she has a little thing that you can move around. She had a BB in her stomach that you could just like superficially move from under her skin. So someone at some point thought it was acceptable to shoot a cat with a BB. And she could have been pregnant. Who knows? And, who knows? Because she was on the streets when they came in. So
one of my foster dogs was a 8-week-old puppy. It was on the news in Los Angeles, actually. There was a psycho throwing acid on puppies. And he's still doing incredible now. But
the puppy?
Animals, I don't know what happened.
I thought you meant the guy. I was like, I hope he's in jail.
I hope he died a very slow, torturous death. But the puppy's doing incredible.
Good.
His name's Ethan, or it was Ethan. And he is the most resilient little thing. And so us learning those lessons from these dogs and cats,
it's so important,
has been for us healing.
Right. And we're advocating for them as well, which is something that I really like to do because animals can't speak for themselves. And so doing that kind of set me up to help in this, to advocate for humans too. And it's really interesting because you can learn so much from both. And people need to have support and love that's unconditional, regardless of if they make a bad choice or a bad decision or have a bad day or a bad mood. I mean, it's important to have that.
Also, I would like to say, you just brought up a very good point of, I think part of the reason why we do what we do is because we stand up and have a voice for the voiceless, like we needed, right? So for whatever reason, and on top of the fact that animals were always our friends. Like for me, that was always my unconditional love. I knew my animals had my back, and I probably would have suffered so hard.
Without them, right.
Yeah, I mean, going through the way we grew up and everything. But having that and being that voice for them, I think is very therapeutic for us and cathartic. And then telling the story in the way that, I mean, I make these videos for Elvis and stuff. And like, sometimes I'll or the rescue, and like we'll do this whole project. It'll take 6 months. We'll go rescue this dog, but then we'll put it all together. And at the end, I'll write something cheesy like "Love wins."
Yeah, but it does.
And I'll make myself cry. Like I'll watch it. I'll be like, "Oh, so simple." But I think it's just so beautiful that we're still able to see the glass as half full in those situations.
Absolutely. Because you're able to make such an impact. And with animals, it's usually a little quicker. Well, not always, but sometimes it's a little quicker. If it's just they're sick and they need meds and they just need to bounce back. Or sometimes it's like they've been on the streets for a long time and they don't trust humans because people have been real mean to them. And so, you know, sometimes it's working through all their animal psyche. You know, I always used to say and tell people if I foster a dog or a cat, especially my long-term ones, that they take longer. They just do. One of the mom dogs that I had, she came in pregnant and I agreed to take her when I really shouldn't have been. But I was so sad because I was actively having my mom die. Like she was in the process. And so I was like, okay, when I get back into town, we'll come and grab this girl. And it'll be a good thing to take my mind off of other things that are going on because it's tense, but it makes me focus on one thing.
Taking care of others is a great coping mechanism.
I was just gonna say it's probably not the healthiest all the time, but you know, I did it. And I had her for a year.
It breeds codependency, but it's totally cool. Keep going.
But the good thing is the dogs can get adopted. So we can be codependent and then they can go. So she found an amazing home, but it took her a year because she was shy, because she was nervous, she couldn't walk on a leash, she was scared of leashes. She came in pregnant, so we don't know if she was traumatized, running loose, or just chained up in someone's yard because people do that, which is horrible. Don't do that, people. Don't do that. Don't be that shitty owner, please. Because Degraded Daughters isn't down for the bullshit with that.
No,
not at all.
Of course not.
No. So, but she did land an amazing home. And so she has a chicken that's a sibling, so cool, and a beautiful backyard. She can chase the squirrels, and she trusted the people. And we probably know from talking to people that are possibly going to adopt a harder to adopt animal, the language that we use, because I use specific words to let the person know. Because sometimes you look at a picture and a cat is so beautiful or a dog is so beautiful, but I have to tell these people like, hey, it's taken 6 months. It's taken this long for them to be comfortable with me in my house. And they've been with me in my house actively for this amount of time. I just want you to know that. Now, the last people that adopted this, they are the most amazing family. I was so happy. But they've also had dogs from the streets before, so they understood that environment and how their brains work differently, right?
Yeah.
They just take a little longer to trust. Once they trust, it's beautiful. But they just you have to work for that because they have had to, you know, essentially keep themselves alive on the streets, and it's not always safe. So,
well, also, I'm always offended because I've always done all the hard work. So sometimes they'll get to this new person's house that I've, you know, gone through the application. I know that I like this individual. I think they're equipped. But when we'll do a meeting and I'll be like, yeah, he's really like horrible. And then he'll like walk up and kiss them.
So
and I'm
sweet.
like,
really?
Wait. So all that recovery work we did actually worked. And like that so now you just like humans. Okay, cool. But it is cool because that's our goal. And if we know how long it takes dogs and cats, which can be months and months, imagine how long it takes humans who are much more complex and have many layered emotions to just recover from things and all then also open up. We all have different attachment styles.
Right.
So
we were talking about this, and this is so in-depth and so interesting.
Yeah, I had pulled
There's so much.
I didn't want to like go too deep into the attachment theory, but it is because we could do a whole video about it. But they talk about just because a negligent caregiver fails to love and nurture the child, that does not mean the child is not lovable. But it's hard to believe, right? So I was going to read, so there's 3 types of attachment styles, and I was just going to read secure so that we can all kind of like know what that means. Because
the best one, the good one,
and
what you aim for.
It has to do with how you're raised, just with your primary caregiver, and then how much acceptance, love, how much you were able to get through the development styles and really attach to the person who you were supposed to trust. So that can have just long-term effects on how our relationships end up later on. And some of us had great bonding, some of us didn't, some of us have this, some of us have that, but it's such a cool way to like look at it. So here's what it says: the luckiest ones, secure children, manage to develop a confident faith in themselves and their caregivers. When mother returns after separation, they greet her happily with open arms. They're easily soothed when upset, and they actively explore their environment, returning frequently to the primary caregiver for comfort and encouragement. They are sure of the caregiver's support and do not worry about it. This positive attitude carries over into other relationships. One remarkable aspect of these attachment styles is their self-fulfilling nature. And there's reference to Shaver and Clark in 1994 who did research on it. It says the anxious and clingy child annoys people and drives them away. The avoidant child makes people angry, but the secure child is likable and attracts both caregivers and friends. Thus, a child's developing attachment style affects outcomes throughout life. So, well,
interesting. So your foundation matters. Yeah.
Yeah. So studies that examined attachment styles in more detail found that avoidant individuals are relatively uninterested in romantic relationships. They're also more likely than secure individuals to have their relationships break up and grieve less after a relationship ends, even though they admit to being lonely. They like to work alone, and they sometimes use work as an excuse to detach from emotional relationships. So that's like avoidant or whatever. Anxious, ambivalent adults, in contrast, are obsessed with their romantic partners. They think about them all the time and have trouble allowing them to have their own lives. They suffer from extreme jealousy, report a high rate of relationship failures, sometimes exhibit a cycle of breaking up and getting back together with the same partner.
Too close to home.
Insecure attachment style also can lead people to become more likely involved in dangerous drug use. And that's from research in 2018 from Fairbarn.
Interesting.
Secure individuals can deal directly with reality because their attachment experience has been positive and reliable. They have always had a safe refuge from danger and a secure base from which to explore the world. This idealized description does not mean that secure people never cry, become angry, or worry about abandonment, but they do not need to distort reality to deal with their sadness, anger, or insecurity. And one of my favorite songs ever is by Elliott Smith, and it's called A Distorted Reality Is Now a Necessity to Be Free. So I find that last sentence very powerful.
Very powerful. I would say it's kind of right on par.
Yeah. It has so much to do with just like, I mean, you can't plant a plant and then have it in a bad like veg area and like vegetation and have bad roots. Not bad, but like,
not
they
ideal.
don't grow. If they don't grow in certain areas or like you're not watering it, like how is it ever gonna, how can you expect it to have all these features of the plant that is well grounded, has these big roots, had all these supports in place, right?
Absolutely. And I always have said that too. Like the first thing that I looked at when I was having kids was, how am I going to be able to love unconditionally? Like, and make sure I do that without the judgmental. My mom was really, really good at that. And I don't know how the hell she let us be ourselves, because for kids, I don't know how she did it. I can't do it as good as she did. And I know that. But I think part of it was her rebellion against that portion of Scientology too. Like I'm looking at it as a mom now, and I'm like, maybe that was just your way of just kind of like not doing it. And so you loved us so hard and you let us be ourselves because it was safe at home to do that. Whereas if we were in the Scientology world or at school, we couldn't really do that as much because, they don't like that. So it is very interesting because a lot of parents in Scientology world were either one way extreme or another, like really lenient and they just let their kids be kids, like free roam, or they were super authoritative and they had to do stuff and clean and chores and white glove, because we had to do that at boarding school, like
And
taking care.
but it was an if then. So if you do all of this, you can have the love, right?
Yeah, well, that and your housing and your food and like your basic needs would be met if and when, right? Because that's always how I saw it. Even at like at boarding school, they kind of were like, well, you're not going to be part of the group if you're not doing this or this and this. So it's essentially you do this if you want to have your basic needs met, which is not cool, not appropriate. And that's always something I tell people is like, if you're in any kind of a bad position, are you having your own needs met? Have you eaten? Have you slept? Like those kind of things, because that's self-love and learning how to take care of ourselves, because we were not really shown that. I mean, I know now I still struggle with, hey, have I eaten in the last few hours? Like, do I need to eat? Do I need to do something? Have I slept enough? Am I this, that, or the other? Because taking care of others and animals is easy for us, whereas taking care of ourselves seems a lot more foreign, and we have to work on that, which is whatever. It's just our thing that we have to work on, right?
Yeah.
It's just a thing.
And we kind of like do appreciate outside gestures of love, maybe even a little bit more than others, because like we do sometimes suffer from like imposter syndrome, where like, maybe we've come so far, we're out of it, whatever, but like still hard to believe everything everybody says on comments and stuff. It's just like, it doesn't kind of feel real. It feels like we're like faking it. And I think that comes from like a place of maybe we still need to work on some self-love, and like, it's nice when people do gestures and let us know that we're like appreciated. It really touches me. And sometimes it even makes me cry, just like burst into tears, because it feels so weird.
Yeah. Like you said, it's like reverse gaslighting. It's kind of helping to undo all the years and the times that we were not listened to, and that we were not validated, and we were not just loved for just existing. So that is just a very hard thing.
Just accepted for us. We always had to be something else. And so just being accepted, and then people like that and they like want to support it. And it's a little shocking.
Yeah. It's still foreign to us. So we're still learning it. We're still learning. We're still journeying this. Okay. We're still trying to figure this stuff out. So while we love, we also have to actively work on love. And I have to do that all the time, because I have to make sure if I'm loving myself, am I being loving to my husband, to my kids, to my animals. Because I mean, it's different. There's so many different types of love, and how you give it versus how you receive it. And, that's all different. And everybody loves in a different way, I've noticed, and so it's really nice. And, it's really nice when you see people that love unconditionally, because that's the most to me, love is the most powerful thing that there is. What's more powerful,
Yeah. No, I wanted to pull up before we end
the definition, right?
Yeah.
I was just gonna say, I really want you to say that definition, because I really like that. But really good.
Also going to point out that sometimes the unconditional love has to come from ourselves before we can accept it from anybody else as well.
That's very true.
And that is a challenge, because we want to be perfect, and we want to look perfect, and we want to be perfect. And it's not necessary.
Yeah, you might be hitting a little too close to home there. But yeah. Maybe I won't let my husband watch this one either, because I'll need to hear it.
The husband is never allowed to watch a lot of these.
None. None for you, sir.
Funny.
Sorry. Because he'll be like, I feel like I've been saying that for like 20 years now. And I'll be like, so maybe I'm just now catching on to parts of it.
It's challenging.
It takes a long time to see it, to acknowledge it, but not even just that, to implement the change.
And I think as far as attraction goes, like I know, we didn't want to make this an 18-hour video, but I do think that I tend to be attracted to those who have qualities that I admire. And, ability to turn off your empathy has unfortunately been like an attraction point for me. I'm like,
because you're used to it.
You can love yourself and like stand up for yourself. And then you also don't care about anybody. How hot. And it's not hot. So I've had to like Be careful.
You're like,
because
hold on.
The
Hold on.
people
That's
who
not
we
what I
were
want.
raised to like look at as cool and who we saw were not healthy.
They were not healthy in that way, right? They were just not.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, they bought into a not so healthy lifestyle and thought, I don't know, I don't want to call it religion, but way to live and be, and it's not really beneficial for anybody.
Yeah, all we want is people to accept us for ourselves, and the fact that you're doing that as something for your children is beautiful. So let's hear this. This is ridiculous. Are you ready?
I love this. Yes, I really like this. So everybody listen, because this is the best definition of love.
It's not. It's L. Ron Hubbard's definition.
Oh, it's the cruddy one. Oh, okay. Well, we'll start off with his, and we'll end with the good one.
Okay. This is what, when I was younger, I would be like asking this question, and I was told to look it up in the tech dictionary, and I looked it up. Love. First definition. This is from L. Ron Hubbard. Love, as a word, has too many meanings, and so we use an old word, affinity, as meaning the love or brotherhood from one dynamic to another. The next one.
It's not that great.
The next one. 2, the human manifestation of admiration.
That's it? Put some respect on the love, buddy.
Put some
meaning?
Yeah,
some actual value.
Manifestation. What is this, like a robot explaining? Is this Chat GPT?
It is
talking to us.
It was in the back in the day before it was a thing. He was just getting it ready. He was implanting it in our minds.
Yeah, that was from Pab 8. 3, the third and final definition.
Okay.
An intensity of happiness addressed in a certain direction. Self-analysis, page 93. Wow.
I like the intense part. I mean,
an intensity of happiness addressed in a certain direction, though. That sounds like a manic episode to me.
Yeah. It sounds like you might need to call for help.
Yeah, like what?
Well, I'm glad that we don't live by those definitions.
Yeah, so
because that's not really great for anybody,
cool,
And also, like, people, please don't take advice from a dude that like never had any good marriages, like who was married 3 times and was not good to any of his wives. Like,
oh yes, his child unalived himself, and also said that his life was miserable due to L. Ron Hubbard. This was L. Ron Hubbard Jr. Said that. So
yeah, he's not a good parent. He was never a good husband.
Yeah.
I mean, he really sucked at a lot of stuff, y'all. Why did you follow this dude?
Yeah, right. 1,000,000%. So now let's talk about the real definition of love.
Yes, I like the good one.
A helpful one.
Yeah.
A helpful one. So love or unconditional positive regard involves showing complete support and acceptance of a person, no matter what that person says or does.
I think that's what we need. I think that's what we like. Wait. ARC triangle. Gang. What's your volcanoes erupt with us?
Yeah. So with that, we're ending off. We love y'all. Thanks for coming,
guys. Thanks for hanging.
Let us know your thoughts on love and like romance, because we didn't even talk about that. But if you want,
that'll be another. This is just the first video of our love.
Love. Bye, you guys.
Bye. Give your pets some kisses for us.
Yeah, please.
You girls watch out for those DBs.
We are the DBs, mister.